Wow, thank you all today. First of all, to the organizers, ladies, and those that are privileged enough to know the ladies in this room. I'm talking about these guys who are hanging about when they shouldn't be inside the room. Distinguished guests, a very good evening to you all. First, when I was invited, I was excited to attend. I didn't know what I was being invited for. And a few days ago, I saw the invite actually said that they wanted me to speak. And I got nervous. And I was like, are you guys sure? Because I say some controversial things. But after listening to tonight, I see I'm amongst my fellow, well, my buddy over there, she said waterfalls really killed me. My fellow little freaks over here. Actually, when that question came up on the body of what there was none that I particularly was drawn to. So I guess I like a little bit of everything at every time. So when I was told the theme was coming home to self, I laughed a little. Because if there's one thing I've learned as a woman in public life, it's that everybody seems to know who you are supposed to be. Everybody has a version of you that they would like you to become, especially a traditional man with a Facebook account. Online, anybody can tell you anything, and that's who you're supposed to be. For me, the challenge is figuring out which version of you is actually you. And to me, that's what coming home to self truly means. It doesn't mean returning to yourself or finding yourself, because most of us were never really lost in the first place. We don't need to be found. We don't have to find ourselves either. We're simply buried underneath mountains of expectations and a society that wants to force our big bodies into boxes that we've already outgrown. I often joke that there's nobody quite like me in Kenyan politics. It's true. I grew up in a very unusual way. Typically, people who grew up like me do not enter public service. I grew up in a home where, despite my standing, and I'm the youngest, and one of those papers was daughter, I tore that up. My opinion was as valuable as my older brothers and my older sister. I want this to be a conversation, and honestly, to the organizers, I think this thing should actually be a retreat. I didn't know what this was, but I'm loving it. This should be, I feel like we should be in our pajamas somewhere, and some wine, and we just do this, because I've learned so much. I've learned so much. I'm so grateful to be in a room where I'm lady. People who know more than me. I've sat in rooms with presidents and leaders and world leaders. But at my core, I'm also a very typical Nairobi chick. And I'll tell you the first thing about being from Nairobi. Nairobi is a place where you're not meant to feel yourself sana. Don't feel so dope here. Yeah? I'm telling those visitors who came because they're annoying us. You have to take it easy. Even if you've made money in Nairobi, everybody is the same. It's a very Kenyan attitude and a very Nairobi attitude. All of us have been to Kenyatta Market when we were kids, when you had 4 women standing on your head, you even think she can read your thoughts, you couldn't breathe. Well, I'm not in Westlands much, but I just realized there's a street down here called Electric Ave that I used to terrorize when I was a teenager. I've sat in dens with men who always have to tell you things, even though you didn't ask their opinion, they must tell you that opinion. Kula tiegas. I also know what it means to drive to Shags, and it's an 8-hour drive. And once you get there, you fika and there's hakuna stima ban. That's a very Nairobi experience. But I can also put on my Philly accent and get a real Philly real quick. And, bruv, when I go to London, yeah, I sometimes it's sort of like I find myself like I'm picking up words, I'm picking up an accent. I can do something like that. I relate to driving to school with my mom. She used to have a light green Peugeot 405. And she used to play Dombolo. And I can also follow how Trump messed up with Iran today. For the younger ones, I can agree that, yeah, Kendrick won that battle. I can show off about Arsenal. I can be turned off by the World Cup being in America. Before I came here, I watched Love Island and 90 Day Fiancé. I'll tell you. I can also tell you how a constituency in Homa Bay is called Kasipul, and Sipul was actually the name of a favorite pet. That's how it's named at. So people often ask me why I don't post my activities online. And it's simply because I can't be bothered. I don't need to expose every detail of me to be acceptable. But this is going well. I may post this. I'm as Kenyan as they come, and I'm as worldly as they come. Somewhere between all these worlds is where I became myself. Not fully one thing, and also not fully another. And for a long time, I thought that was a problem. Now I think it's my greatest strength. However, it's confusing to the many people that have expectations of me. And Doc, I'm going to call you Doc. That was so freeing. Thank you for helping me shed some of those people, the worry of the expectations of me. For the past 8 months, I've gone through the most difficult period of my life. Me and my dad were tight. In fact, I tell people I'm currently going through my midlife crisis. A very traumatic event happened to me when I was in India. I was quickly rushed home. All of a sudden, I was told to speak about the person I had dedicated my whole life to. Nobody thought or knew, really, in that moment. The things I was thinking was, wait, I was just with him. I was talking to him. I was laughing with him. I was hugging him. I was feeling him. And then all of a sudden, he went. And immediately after that, I'm being told, do this. And you have to do this. And you must do this properly and perfectly. So I didn't see that coming. I didn't have direction. Before I could look up, I saw the destruction of what he had built and what he had loved so dearly by those that he had entrusted. And I felt so much pain. And I spoke up. They said I was disrespectful. And in my opinion, I was very respectful. I can bring that Philadelphia back here real quick if they want to see disrespectful. I was put on the headline. I trended. But I spoke up because I knew what I was saying was correct. I was right. But then the debate then disintegrated into the manner in what I said, how I said it. So I stepped back. I got low. They wanted to cut me down to size. Kanza, you've been in politics. You know those talks, those late night talks. To cover me, and to some extent, they succeeded. I was agonizing, and I realized it's simply because people like me do not say the things I was saying to people like them. We're different, and it's okay. Politicians can do somersaults to get to the microphone every weekend, but my therapist had to tell me, I don't work like that. I don't like attention. Many of you will never believe me when I say it, but I'm deathly afraid of public speaking. I'm very shy by nature. Yeah, it's just because I'm tall. That's why I removed the heels. Yeah, but I'm not a radio host. And if I'm not being helpful, then I don't talk for the sake of talking. But I've lived my whole life in the public. And this one major thing is something I could not do in public. As a woman, I could not have my midlife crisis publicly. It would not be acceptable. And as the daughter of this great man, I was not allowed to mourn him privately. For many people as related to it was also not acceptable. I was not able to think peacefully, to plan clearly, to decide what I want and how I want it. So where then does coming home to self Where is it? How do you get to it? In my mind, I'm thinking I have to be my authentic self, but authenticity is rarely neat for women. It's usually very complicated. Many women here know exactly what I mean, and listening tonight, you're a mother and a CEO, or a lawyer, maybe soon a divorcee, we don't know. You're a caregiver and an entrepreneur. You're a leader and a daughter. You're a provider and a dreamer. You have dreams. And everyone wants one version of you while ignoring the others. Sometimes the pressure becomes so loud that you start performing instead of living. You start becoming who people applaud rather than who you are. Being seen is not the same thing as being valuable. And being loud is not the same thing as being powerful. Some of the most influential women I know are not trending. They're not on television. They're not speaking at conferences. They're raising families. I asked her to say how many people still had mother in their hands, and those that put up their hands, so jealous of you. And I was wondering, is that what you see yourself as a mother? Or is that what you have to be now and it's the most important thing? I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. But that identity means when you leave anywhere, you're going home to something that fulfills you. Your identity remains throughout all those things you do. And I'm not yet there, but we'll figure that one out. So these women, they're raising families and they're building businesses. They're holding communities together, keeping institutions functioning, creating opportunities and healing generations. During the last two election cycles, in 2017 and 2022, I'm going to do a little bit of showing off here, but I'm a jungle, I can do that. I spent months in the campaign, from searching neighborhoods for campaign officers to leading tremendous communication teams and managing a candidate, as well as managing his family because he was too busy managing the cafe. That's how it's called, candidate management. I've come up with things that have changed the way Kenyan politics is done, but nobody knows because I don't say it. I'd organize events. I'd be in strategy sessions. I'd be doing the work, but when the retelling of the story happened, I was not the strategist. I was not called the organizer, not the leader, but always the daughter of. So I want to tell you a little story real quick. In 2016, my father took me to Philadelphia. It was a Democratic National Convention, and Hillary Clinton was the presidential candidate. And when we sat in the auditorium, every few gentlemen, give me a second, just hold, because when he moves, I'm going to get confused, because I'm hungry. So when I sat in the auditorium, every time a speaker came, whether it was Obama or Michelle or Hillary herself, ushers would come and hand placards. And so you'd all of a sudden have a Hillary placard. And then you'd have a Michelle one, hers was long with a stick. And I collected them and I carried them home. And at the airport, my dad was asking, where are you going with these things? And I told him, just don't worry about it. And in the campaign office, we had come up with different things. And I remembered this placard. And I told them, you guys, we need to do the placard. So we designed it. I designed it. And what'd you write on the placard? So I thought, we're all these people. So it's like we're 10 million. We have 10 million votes. So we did a hashtag 10 million strong. Now, the day of the candidate launch, the MC was scared to tell people that you have placards under your seat. Look, I went in a hoodie and I was sitting by the stage and I kept telling him, lift those placards. Eventually, because of my pressure, he tells people to lift them. When the candidate comes in, they lift them. Oh, Baba, 10 million strong. And that's it. So I'm the one who brought placards to Kenya. That's the story. That's how I did it. At that same time, when the government banned our not banned, but sort of threatened media houses from carrying our rallies, I thought, how else do we stream our rallies? And that's when we went to Facebook Live. And I had a little camera. And I asked my brother and his team, and they figured it out. And we started NASA TV. In 2022, when NASA was finished, I changed the name to Azimio TV. That's the Azimio TV you're seeing right here around now. Till today, if you check, I'm the super admin of that page because I opened it. I opened the damn thing. They'll never say it. We redesigned presidential stage. I put a candidate in a song and a music video, if you guys can remember. But I'm never referred to as the political communication strategist, only the daughter of. Yes, I am, and I'm proudly the daughter of. I am both, and much more. Every woman in here is somebody's daughter. However, you're not only that one thing. In fact, one of the greatest lessons I've learned is that Kenyan women are already the blueprint. We keep searching for examples of successful women as though they exist somewhere else. But they're right here. The woman running a biashara, paying school fees, the grandmother raising grandkids, the nurse finishing a night shift, the teacher buying supplies from her own salary, the woman rebuilding her life after the divorce, women caring for aging parents, and society while pursuing their own dreams. The one who's going mad stressing about her husband's shenanigans. I had to say that while still smiling for the children. Last night I watched this show on Netflix, a crazy show. And it's got this guy called Jonas. Crazy show, you gotta watch it, but at the same time, look, everybody's talking about it. At the same time, I worked on my research paper. That show's good, huh? At the same time, I worked on my research paper on the recent school fires and school uprising, which today is not the day for that topic, but it's something we'll talk to us as women later. All these women that I described before are not following a blueprint. They're the blueprint. You have to be so many things to so many people all the time, and it's exhausting. And after being all these things the whole day, you go home and someone is telling you, Ati, you're moody. You're not moody. You're tired. Men only have to be one thing. And in this society, mostly it's to be rich. If you're a rich man in Kenya, you can do anything you want. Well, a woman has to be so many things. She has to create her own blueprint. And I think sometimes we forget to celebrate that. When people ask me who inspired me, of course I can name famous women. But honestly, some of the strongest women I know have never been interviewed. Their names never appear in newspapers. Yet entire families, communities, and even nations stand because of them. That's leadership too. And perhaps that is what coming home to self really means. It means accepting that you do not need permission to become who you already are. You do not need a headline. You do not need validation. You do not need someone else's definition of success. You simply need the courage to stop abandoning yourself. So we need to tell the truth. We need to rest when necessary, to set boundaries, to say no, to change direction, to ask for help, to protect your peace, and to remember that your worth was never tied to your productivity. You are valuable because you exist, not because you are useful, but because you are a human being. Before I close, I want to leave you with a few thoughts. Please do not spend your life shrinking yourself to make other people comfortable. Please do not mistake exhaustion for achievement. Please do not wait until a crisis forces you to listen to yourself. The world benefits when women are fully themselves, not when they're performing or pretending, but when they're simply themselves, authentic, whole, and present. May you leave this room remembering that you are not behind, you are not late, you are not too much. You're exactly where your story needs you to be. Thank you very much. I forgot I took off my shoes. I have so much to carry here.